Joining us also is Mr. Santosh Rao, Head of Research and Partner, Manhattan Venture Partners. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening on ET Now to discuss this very, very important story and the ramifications that it could have globally. Let me come to you first, Mr. Sahai. Now, tariffs and counter tariffs now, of course, coming in from Canada, Mexico, and China have also expressed and they have. Express concerns and they have said that they will take the matter to WTO. But how do you really see this issue panning out? Is there a case for rolling back these tariffs at all?
In fact, Mr. Trump has made it very clear that he will be imposing the tariff. He is invoking national security clause to impose the tariff. I'm not sure to what extent these issues can be taken to the WTO, but even if you are taking it to the WTO, there is a appellate body. Unfortunately, there is no member who is currently holding any position in the appellate body. So you will be dragging the cases, and probably that will not solve the problem. This is definitely something which is extremely unfortunate. It is adding to the uncertainty, and probably it will slow down both the growth of the global trade and the global economy. Of course, once the duties are slapped, US importer will be looking into finding the alternative source of supply, and US government will also like to have the alternative source of supply so that the prices of the goods don't go beyond a certain level. Otherwise, the consumer will up in arms against these kinds of tariff. This is definitely something which was expected, and I'm pretty sure that in times to come, it may escalate. There will be retaliation by the countries concerned. Canada has already has decided to retaliate, and other countries will be doing that. Probably in the last time also, we have seen that country have also retaliated, impacting the equal volumes of trade from the US as well.
Absolutely, Mr. Sahai, a very valid point that you've made because given that this was one of the key campaign promises that Donald Trump made during his election campaigning, he stated that these are in the interest of U.S. Consumers and citizens, but this is rather detrimental given all the factors that you've mentioned. Mr. Rao, let me come to you. When you see the markets impact, the direction and magnitude on global markets, is that surprising because the markets were already factoring in Trump tariffs? And secondly, how much more volatility do you anticipate in the markets because you already have the DeepSeek and AI challenge that's spooking the markets?
Absolutely. Good morning. I think a few points. I think we got some clarification this morning from one of the economic advisors there. He said this is more a drug war as opposed to a trade war. They've focused more on stopping the flow of drugs, and also behind it, the illegal immigration that happens behind it, the people who jump over the wall and all that stuff. So I think all those things. So I think they have all day today that the tariffs don't go into effect until 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. After 12 o'clock today, they go into effect. So they have full day. They said they've been talking all weekend, talking today to both Mexico and Canada. So I think there is a hope of compromise. You saw the stocks come back a little bit. So I think that's a good sign. But on the face of it, the headline is always bad when you have tariffs. They're not good for the economy overall at a very high level. But he is using more this as a punitive rather than a very as a policy, long-term policy. So there is room for negotiation, and there are going to be a lot of legal cases, WTO and all that stuff. The Congress is going to come in. But in the meantime, he's made it clear that he said he's going to do that. He's going to go that. He feels America has been treated unfairly, and he wants to level the playing field. So we'll wait and see. Right now, the headline is bad, but I don't think we should leave some time for some kind of a negotiated settlement, some kind of lowering of the temperatures toward the end of this day. So we'll wait and see. But net, like the earlier speaker said, yes, the tariffs are always bad. They're not good. They're retaliatory. There and on talking about volatility, it's going to be more and more. Already the market was on the edge. It's been trading at a very high multiple, so anything can spook the market, and this is one of the things that really spooked the market.
Absolutely. Mr. Rao, then when you say that there could be a negotiation, so are you hinting at perhaps the kind of correction that we're seeing? Is this a short-term correction? And if this is a short-term correction, then which sectors are you anticipating will be worst hit?
Yeah, I think I mean the threat of AI, the threat being like totally upended because of DeepSeek, I think that's overblown. It's still not proven yet. So that's going to come back. And then you're going to see energy also do well, and financials will do well as well. So all the industrials will also do well. So these are my favorite sectors because there is going to be growth. He has tremendous pro-growth ideas that he wants to implement. So that should help the economy. Tariff was the overhang that kind of clouded everything. But underneath all this, when the tariff settles and the market absorbs the net effect of these tariffs, I think Trump is really banking on a very pro-growth strategy, and that should help the economy. He thinks it's all going to help in the end with cost cutting and regulatory changes. So net, there is some good news behind it if he can get over this tariff hurdle. So I say financials. I like technology. I continue to like technology. We have two more earnings reports today. All of them so far have been very good. So I think
Right.
the economy is not bad. Economy is doing well. Job market is doing well. Companies are reporting good numbers. So it's just this noise on top of it that's really causing all the confusion.
So you're stating that this is just noise and there could be a negotiation that could be arrived at. We'll have to see how this really
Yes.
pans out, given that Donald Trump stated that he's going to fix the American economy. It's another thing that he inherited a rather decent economy from Mr. Biden. Of course, Mr. Rao will come to that in just a bit, but let me come to you, Mr. Sahai. Now, when we look at Trump 1.0, there were tariffs then as well. He's been obsessed with tariffs, but what's changed from Trump 1.0 to this time around? And do you think if there is no negotiation, like you said, which could be arrived at, do you think these tariffs could be far more destructive than they were in Trump 1.0?
Definitely, if we are talking about the tariff which he has imposed on China, and he has said that even the tariff on China may go up, this will definitely be something which is very, very bad, because it's not only that China will be impacted, South Korea, Japan, who are the major supplier of parts and components to China, to some extent, they will also be impacted. I think the difference between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0 is that probably this time Mr. Trump is coming with absolute power. There will be no control of Congress. The US judiciary is now dominated by the Republicans. So he will have his sway. So far India is concerned, I think since we have a very deep strategic relationship, the the threat of tariff will be more for the negotiation rather than imposing actual tariff, because if you are looking into India's exports to US, we are not competing with the US manufacturing in large number of sectors. So if the tariff is imposed on other countries, probably India will be gainer. There will be definitely trade diversion. The importer will be seeking alternative source of supply, and India is definitely emerging as an alternative in many cases. So there will be opportunity for India in many sectors, particularly if you are talking about mobile and telecommunication, pharmaceuticals, chemical, electrical machinery and components, auto components, even in the labor-intensive sectors like apparel made of fabrics, footwear, toys, furniture. So this kind of tariff, in some extent, may be helping India's exports indirectly.
Okay, so Mr. Sahai, when you say that it could help India's exports indirectly, but what can India do further to deal with the Trump 2.0 administration, given that, I mean, India and US have had a great relations and with all past US presidents, but many say that Trump 2.0 and the relationship that this administration has with other countries is going to be transactional, given that MAGA, or Make America Great Again, was a big campaign pitch of Donald Trump. So how could India really deal with Trump 2.0, given that, this tariff move is coming in as the Prime Minister is all set to visit the United States for an official visit? And how could India then look forward to capitalizing further on the China Plus One opportunity?
In fact, you have
Sahai.
rightly said that Mr. Trump will be quite transactional, and probably we have to deal with him to provide better market access to the US products and services. To some extent, the budget yesterday have definitely reduce duty on some of the product of many of them, which of the US interest also. For example, if you are looking into Ethernet switches where the duty has been reduced from 20% to 10%, US has an export of more than $650 million. We have reduced the duty on motorcycle of CC 1600 plus. The duty has come down from 50% to 30%. On some of the waste and scrap, the duty has come down from 5% to 0%. There are animal feed for marine product where duty has been substantially reduced. For flavoring agents also, the duty has been reduced from 100 to 20%. This is not with the US particularly in mind, but since US is major supplier of these products to some extent, we will be able to soften the US stand. We have also to look into what other market access can be provided. He has talked in the past about the supply of medical and diagnostic equipment, some of which are subjected to price control order.
Right.
Can we tweak
Right.
with the order for certain medical and diagnostic above
Right.
a certain threshold limit, so that while we continue with
Right.
affordable healthcare to those who can
Right.
afford it, can be provided access to that? Can we look
Right.
into some
Right.
kind of negotiation on dairy product? Though of course it's a little complicated one, because dairy is something which
Absolutely.
supplements the income of the farmers, and there are religious
Absolutely.
sensitivity involved. Probably, I think I'm pretty sure
Absolutely,
that the
Mr. Sahai.
strategists must be looking into what is the low-hanging
Right.
fruit for negotiation, what we can concede, what we cannot
Absolutely, and
concede.
we
But one
do
thing is very
understand.
clear, probably we have to be ready for
Right,
negotiation
Mr.
with
Sahai.
Trump 2.0.
Absolutely. We have to be ready for negotiations, and this is something that the Indian administration will be bearing in mind when that official visit of the Prime Minister happens to the United States. And of course, if I may also mention, the Finance Secretary Toyin Kanta Pandey recently told a news agency that we do not want to give anybody a signal that we would like to be protectionist, and that's the stance that India is expected to take. Let me come to you, Mr. Santosh Rao. Thank you very much for being patient. What's your read on the Indian markets, given the kind of corrections that we've seen? The budget did bring about a lot of cheer here with the kind of tax rationalization that we saw, but will these gains be offset by these tariff threats in the near term?
Yeah, I think the talk of tariff was very well telegraphed. So I think every country is positioning themselves because they know Trump wants to bring them all to the negotiating table. I think India is ready. I saw in the budget, I was just reading, they have all these tariff relief here and there. Is all that good? It's positioning themselves for negotiations down the road, helping out. So they need a strong point as well in the negotiating table. So I think you will see India will adjust. They both want their economies to grow. And Trump, he knows there is a limit to everything. He said there's going to be hardship near term, but in the end, he wants the economy to grow. He thinks there's going to be money coming in, and then the economy will do well, the stock market will do well. I mean, he marks to market to the stock market every day. I think that's how he judges himself. So I think you're going to see that India will adjust, US will adjust. There's going to be strong negotiations. So everything will be on hold at this point, but volatility will be very high.
Right. Right, Mr. Rao, I'll have to interject you here. We're getting some breaking news. Donald Trump has stated that he's just spoken to Justin Trudeau. Remember, this is coming in after Justin Trudeau. At a recently held press conference, he announced that Canada will be slapping counter tariffs to the tune of 25%. In fact, Trump now stating that he will be speaking with Justin Trudeau once again on the issue, perhaps, of tariffs after he escalated the trade war. So that's a big breaking update that we're getting. This is breaking news. We're trying to get more details on what Donald Trump has exactly stated. Yes, and that's the statement that he's posted on Truth Social. He says that Canada doesn't even allow US banks to open or do businesses there. Many such things. It's also about drugs and war. I believe it's an old post by Donald Trump that he's been posted. But the update, ladies and gentlemen, that we're getting is that Donald Trump has expressed his interest in speaking with Justin Trudeau once again after Canada announced retaliatory tariffs. Canada stated, the Canadian Prime Minister stated that Canada will be imposing 25% tariffs on all US goods. And we'll be getting you more details on what exactly has been stated by Donald Trump, if I can ask my producers to share that statement. But let me come to you, Mr. Sahai. Now, you mentioned that there could be no negotiations, but here it just seems like there could be some negotiation left, and of course he is ready to talk. But what could be the stance that China could take, and what is the next set of actions that you expect China to take?
No, I'm pretty sure that China will also be retaliating. China will not be lying low because Canada has taken a lead. Probably Canada and Mexico, the real issue is not trade. The real issue is, of course, immigration as well as the drugs. So Mr. Trump may deal with China and Mexico a little differently than what he will deal with China. I'm pretty sure that China will be retaliating. Probably China will be calculating how much of his trade is being getting impacted, and they will be taking a call accordingly.
All right. So you're stating that a call will be taken accordingly. But Mr. Rao, what is the immediate impact that you see on businesses, the U.S. economy? Of course, this was something that we discussed earlier on in the show that, of course, Donald Trump inherited a fairly robust economy. Now, what is the implication that you see of this decision on the Fed? Now, if there is a negotiation, do you see a rate cut coming anytime soon?
Well, we can't say that yet. There's still too many things going on, too much cross current at this point. If the economy is growing as is expected and the job market stays strong as it is, I don't see a cut coming in the next meeting. Maybe in the second half, or maybe just one. I'm expecting two this year in the second half of the year, and very likely one if the economy remains strong. So, and if you get tariffs and all that, he's definitely not going to, because it's going to be inflationary, and he's not going to cut rates in that environment. So I think that's one. And about him negotiating with Mexico and Canada, he's also going to talk to Mexico. That's what he said yesterday, coming into White House. He said, I'm going to be talking to Trudeau and also to Mexico. I think Canada has already agreed to some extent, and they're going to be, that looks like a more negotiated, that's more drug related rather than immigration. But Mexico, I think, also is willing to work at it. So I think that for the headline, for their own voter base, they have to put up that posture that they are not giving in. But underneath the covers, everybody needs a negotiated settlement here, because none of them can afford a war, a trade war at this point. But China, as far as US is concerned and Trump is concerned, he believes there are tariffs already. There are trade wars going on because other countries don't buy what they promised to buy. Even China is not keeping up with the last agreement. So I think that's the big issue here. Yes, the war going on, but already Trump believes that there is a war, and other countries are already not buying US goods. So he wants that to change, and he wants a fair trade at this point. So you're going to see a lot of changes in the near term. You're going to see some turbulence, but he'll get the benefit of doubt, because there's a lot of cost cutting in the works, and a lot of growth expected down the road. So let's wait and see. It's too early to call that it's the worst thing that's going to happen, but there could be something, a negotiated settlement going forward, and which is what his strategy is: always shock and awe and pull people in, and just come up with a negotiated settlement.
All right. So a negotiated settlement is something that you are looking at. And of course, that is also understandable given the statement that he's just released. So one final question to you, Mr. Sahai. What's the larger geopolitical shakeup that you expect and anticipate in the coming few months? And is internationalism then dead?
In fact, I personally feel that so far as the geopolitical situation is concerned, probably it will improve. We have seen almost a ceasefire-like situation in the Middle East. We are expecting that to happen with Russian-Ukraine war also. The problem on the Red Sea is also likely to be eased out. So from that perspective, I think Mr. Trump will ensure that business happens as usual. But so far as the tariffs are concerned, probably with the retaliation by other countries, we will have a negative impact of that. And this is something which is not not timely as well, as we have seen that the economies are slowing down. The inflation is pretty high in most of the countries. The purchasing power is dwindling. And that from that perspective, it's not so good. But if you're looking into geopolitical situation, probably it will ease out during Mr. Trump regime.
All right. So you are stating that geopolitical and geopolitics globally will be eased during this regime. Meanwhile, let me take you, ladies and gentlemen, once again through the statement that Donald Trump has released. This is a big breaking news. He has expressed interest in speaking with Justin Trudeau of Canada. He says that Canada doesn't even allow US banks to open or do business there. What's this all about? Many such things, but it's also a drug war, and hundreds and thousands of people have died in the US from drugs pouring through the borders. Just spoke to Justin Trudeau, will be speaking to him again at 3 p.m. That's the big breaking update coming in, and here's hoping that there is some middle ground that is arrived at, as gentlemen, you stated. Thank you very much once again for joining us here on India Tonight. Time now for us to slip into a break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back with lots more on the other side.